why don't we talk about, so you mentioned some stuff about algorithms.
Yeah. So you've hit on a few things already. No, but it ties everything together really well. So I was really curious about, I've been listening to podcasts a lot, particularly Stuff You Should Know.
Okay.
And I actually looked it up when we talked about doing this episode, how does this, if they had done an episode on how does the Spotify algorithm recommend music to people and stuff. As far as I could tell, they didn't do one, but I only searched up in their library Spotify, so maybe if I'd done recommendation or something like that, they might have done it based on something else. But so yeah, I kind of was inspired by them. I want to know how it works. That's a good point. This is uncomfortable. I looked up a few videos on YouTube. I Googled it and all that. I actually found a video with the creator he's self-proclaimed. He says he's the creator of the Spotify recommendation algorithm.
Oh, okay.
His name's Eric Bernhardsen. He's Swedish. So yeah, it was an 8-minute interview. He was talking about all kinds. It was for a technology show or something like that he was part of and all that, or software show, and so he was talking about matrices and all this, and it was just this is way over my head. I did gather some stuff from it, and actually along with reading the other stuff I kind of figured it out. But it's kind of wild because I was looking up, do you ever go on your Spotify homepage and it shows this mix is recommended for you? So it's so there's a bunch of different mixes that Spotify...
Discover is the one I've noticed, Discovery Weekly or...
Discover Weekly is specifically the recommendation that uses these 3 algorithms I'm going to talk about. But but there's other recommendations. So there's you'll get if you're really into Wolfpack, there's this is Wolfpack playlist that Spotify curates.
Yeah. And
that one's generally the same for everybody. Same with they have ones that are genres. There's ones that are kind of vibes, happy mix or chill mix.
Moods.
Yeah, moods. There we go. I'm getting warm in here. I gotta put my window down on this side. Basically, what this guy talked about, he said he drew a lot of inspiration from Netflix, because Netflix had a rating system, or had a recommendation system, but it was based on ratings. So each user would give ratings to movies, and then based on your ratings, Netflix would recommend movies. But the difference that he had to go on was you don't rate music. Normal people, Adam, don't rate music.
I beg to differ, but continue.
So he said he started this about 12 years ago or something. He also mentioned he's no longer with Spotify. He left. So I guess since then it's probably changed a little bit, but he basically built the shell of it. And he said he had to do it kind of in his own time and all that until he had something that was halfway there, and then took it to Spotify and was we need a recommendation system. That's what's going to set us apart and all that. And he brought them this software that he developed. What it does is, again, with the matrices, I had to go back to my grade 11 math to figure out what it was. But he says it's a matrix that's about however many users there are, Spotify users are, in columns, and then however many songs there are in Spotify's library in rows. So what it does is it looks at your column and it shows, say you play this song so many times. We'll say say you listen to Taylor Swift all the time, and you listen to Ed Sheeran all the time. So it creates like these hotspots where like the two, like the song and the user meet. And it kind of creates this profile of like, this is what you like. And then what it does is it goes and finds a user who has very similar tastes, who probably listens to Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran just as much as you do.
Yeah.
And then what it does is it looks at the differences. And it sees that, so say, compared to me, I listen to Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran all the time, but I also listen to Rihanna a little bit. So then it says, like, this guy likes these 3 artists. I bet this guy who likes these 2 would really like the 3rd one that this guy listens to.
Yeah. And I suppose it would probably do that not just with the artists, but the songs themselves.
The songs themselves, yeah.
So there'd be a lot. There'd be a giant database.
Giant.
But, so I've often thought that's interesting because I think what used to happen with recommendations in the more basic days, I'm assuming were more artist driven. So like if you liked Ed Sheeran, it would recommend more Ed Sheeran songs, and people, because there's no, that's not a complicated thing to imagine either.
Yeah.
Like if you like these 3 artists and I like these 3 artists, there's a good chance that some of the other ones might mix as well, especially if they're of a similar style, or hundreds of other people who like these as well.
So there's actually a second algorithm where it's called the natural language processing system. And so Spotify actually bought this software from another company, or bought out this company or whatever. I can't remember the name of it right now, or I didn't write it down, so there's no chance I'd ever remember it. But what it does is this software, so it creates a word bank for each artist. I think this one's more artist specific rather than songs. And based on the word bank it creates, like it has like splits it up to like adjectives, nouns that you'd use to describe this band. So if like say like something like ABBA, they used like poppy or like bubbly or something like that, it would
disco.
It takes
more moods or genres or both.
It's like, I think it's like beyond, like they used ABBA specifically, and I think one of the words was even Swedish. So like it's beyond, like it goes quite deep. And so it finds artists that have those similar keywords, and based on that,
right,
they also recommend.
Now, are these, the thing I would want to know are like the tags.
It's basically making tags.
Would those be artist created or like AI, or like how would they be created? Because that would, just like in YouTube when you create your own tags, like you're kind of tailoring it.
It's this program searches the web for anything it can possibly find on the artist. And so if you're listening to if it finds a written review about the artist, if it finds, I don't know what else, I'm blanking on it.
So it's a type of AI basically.
Yeah.
That would just,
well, it makes a key. So, but like,
yeah, but there's a technical term for like a program that scours the web and adds things to it. But now we call that AI. But
so, and then along with that, and the third algorithm, which is called sonic profiles. That's kind of how they do it. But sonic profiles is literally Spotify, however they do it, they must have some kind of giant engine, listens to the music, and it breaks it down by tempo, key, time signature, like literally like the profile, like the like the sound profile of it. It then categorizes it according to that and finds other songs that are similar like that. So if you find so it's like, obviously you can get songs that are in the same time signature, same key and that, but be drastically different. Then it brings in that natural language processing, which describes the artist as, well, okay, this one is very moody, very whatever.
Yeah.
This one is bubbly. obviously then the algorithm wouldn't pull them together because it doesn't match. But if it finds someone with the same kind of sonic profile, and then people are writing it as the same, and then it finds that it's called collaborative filtering. Sorry, was the first algorithm.
Okay.
It uses all three of those, and that's how you get your Discover Weekly.
Right.
So
that's interesting, and it actually kind of makes sense because I haven't personally found a lot of success listening to Discover Weekly.
Because you're weird.
Because I'm weird, yeah. And that makes sense. I wouldn't like. I can actually like a song for the story behind it, or just the words, and I don't even like the music, and like so for reasons that are not mathematically or consistent.
Hence the poopy butt cheeks.
For sure. Check them out. I already forget the name already.
Toilet bowl cleaners.
I mean, I think it's only one guy too.
Oh, okay.
That's great. It's great family fun.
So yeah, there's like a release radar and Discover Weekly, and those are very curated in that. But
so have you found much success with Discover Weekly, or have you used it much?
I don't use it much.
No.
So
where I've actually had the best success finding new artists personally would be again going back to me just like working and having I'm gonna put the garbage out. Working away on one monitor and having just like YouTube going on my second monitor, and every so often I'm just listening to it, I don't like it, I just skip it, whatever, but having the video attached to it, you can kind of get an enhanced version of those songs, because Spotify can sometimes fall a little flat, because again, I'm so interested in the other elements of a song as opposed to just musically. Like it's a lot deeper for me. It's same as but it's a lot less deep for me for movies. Like I'll like a movie and I just like a movie because it's entertained me, whereas music's not quite like that for me. So that's where these algorithms probably wouldn't, I've never really had much success. I found music for sure on Spotify, but it's usually I'm just poking around an artist and I see a song featured by another one and I'll click them and work my way that way. But
so the biggest way I usually find it is the already curated playlists. Something if it's says chill mix or whatever.
I know a lot of people use those. Yeah. Just mood mixes.
Yeah. But then the other thing that we kind of talked about it earlier, where about listening to classical music and that. Have you ever seen the daily mixes?
Yeah. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes, yeah.
I think I have up to 6, and I have no clue why. And I don't listen to them a whole lot, but it's funny because I was talking about when I used to study in that and listen to classical music, there's a daily mix there that's been on Spotify since I've had Spotify, 7 years now, something like that, that still has, it's just classical music or John Williams soundtracks. And so it's it's just funny that
it's interesting. A couple times the Discover Weekly worked really well for me, or the daily mixes, but other times it's a lot of songs from artists that I already listened to that I've essentially rejected because I don't like the song. One that sticks in my mind, so the artist Lecrae, I listened to a bunch of times. There's a couple times where I don't like all of his songs, and so sometimes there'll be one that comes up in the daily mix and I'll be okay, I like the artist, I can see why you think I'd like this song, but it just falls flat for me personally. But so it's I don't know, but it's also, there's probably an element of in the moment as well, depends on how you're feeling, depends on how you discover it. If you're you're going through a rough time and you hear a song that's kind of talking about the problems you're going through, that might relate to you more than another song. So I can see how it would be very personal, very time appropriate, very very difficult to do that. But it is interesting. I mean, in theory it makes sense for sure, and I think probably for most people that would make a lot of sense.
You think it would have to be so much more, I was looking up what other stuff has algorithms like this, and I didn't realize YouTube obviously has a recommendation algorithm, which I find doesn't always work the greatest, because it's if I watch a video or like I watch a couple videos by one creator. It's literally that's all that they'll recommend to me afterwards, which is annoying.
I guess the thing with, I think what sets YouTube apart a little bit, and they don't have to have these advanced algorithms because you're filtering by thumbnails, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you're just seeing the titles of songs, unless something literally says poop in the title, like you're not going to be drawn to the titles necessarily. So you'll be drawn to the artists, but even that's not perfect. But whereas YouTube, we all do filtering just as you're scrolling through the list. So there's an element to that. And like, there's been plenty of times where like my wife and I will be like watching YouTube at night and whatever, and you'll see the related, something will catch her eye and I'll be like, I don't even know why that would catch your eye. And it was something else would catch mine. So like, that's how you'd go about, discovering new music and stuff just through the thumbnails, which, you know, as much as we don't like to think that we would judge a book by its cover type thing, but like totally, of course we do. Like, there's a visual element like that, either that music video looks interesting or that artist, you know, whatever. So,
The last thing about it that was like kind of blew my mind when I was like watching videos and that about all these algorithms that you kind of don't think about, but obviously it's a thing, is Amazon has its own recommendation algorithm. And it's just like, there it's like, oh, I feel like, I mean, obviously I've probably fallen for it and all that and been like, oh.
Amazon Prime or music?
No, Amazon, like the retail, like the online retailer,
okay.
Like how many times have we probably bought in something because Amazon has this algorithm figured out? Like, oh, I like.
That's again where I'm an anomaly. I don't get sucked in by that stuff. Well, I do, but I know what you mean. Like,
I mean, yeah, I'd probably go on Amazon mostly because I know there's something that I need.
Yeah, you're looking for something specifically,
but
for sure. Yeah, no, I always joke about it because like commercials don't really do a lot for me because I'm not an impulse buyer.
No,
or at least I've trained myself not to be, at least as I generally am. The interesting thing about Amazon too is so advertisers do that. And that's where like, I don't know if it's true or not, but you know, people assume phones and lists are listening to you for advertising purposes. I also think it's possible that they're just so good at knowing A to B. Like if you're looking at chainsaws, you're probably going to look at this too. And like
looking at chainsaws. That's an example.
I mean, it's what happened to me.
What did it bring you to?
Whippersnippers.
Oh, okay.
Weed whackers, whatever. But no, like you're looking at something, it's very likely that people of similar interests who look at this are also going to look at this, or at least will be attracted to this and buy it. So, I mean, it's kind of like at some point they have so much data on how people think and work and progress. Although it's not perfect, it can't be perfect. It's like if 90% of the time or 60% of the time even, that's a great number to have as opposed to just taking a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
So, no, it's interesting. This stuff's fascinating. I mean, I guess I'm also saying I don't really find it works much for me in some areas, but at the same time, maybe it's working the exact bell curve amount of times. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the goal wouldn't be to hit every time. Like, it'd be impossible. So it's like 20% of the time it hits. Well, maybe that's perfectly average for everybody.
Yeah.
So.